In the meantime, as we do every day, we have Chris Lewis, defense attorney with Crane, Lewis, and Brogdon Law Firm. Also, I'm going to be able to give you a way to get in touch with him if you have questions, if you have statements. First of all, Counselor, thanks for being with us once again. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yesterday, a lot was made about the so-called sexting between Guyger and her partner, which evidently had some type of physical relationship. And, that's really irrelevant to this other than the prosecutors, I would imagine, using that to say, well, if she was so tired, she didn't know where she was, why in the text was she making plans to go out later? What's your take on that?
My take on the sexting is, first of all, it is completely irrelevant. I think it's relevant to show that she was distracted in what she was doing, but the content of the message is, to me, is really irrelevant. I think what it was doing, I think what the prosecution was doing there was trying to distinguish the feelings that they wanted the jury to have towards Mr. Jean,
right,
versus the feelings they want the jury to have regarding Amber Guyger. And I really think that that's what was going on. I think it was a play. Let's try to sully her a little bit. I mean, she's fraternizing with a coworker. She's sexting, and then she's not paying attention. And right after the sexting, all of a sudden she kills an innocent man.
Yeah, that's there's a courtroom technique. Although I've never worked in the courtroom, many times, even though you're going to get an objection, you say something because even though the jury's instructed to discard what they just heard, you can't unhear something. And that was, as I looked at that, I thought, okay, other than trying to speak to whether she was tired or not tired, it was irrelevant. The whole thing was. And they spent a lot of time on it.
They did. And they did some stuff today, too. So you have to not only pay attention to what's being said or done in the courtroom, but read between the lines a little bit. So there was a lot that went on in the courtroom today with the body cam and with the 911 call. So the 911 call, there was a lot of focus how when she is calling 911, she is not performing CPR, and she's not doing things that might save his life, and she keeps on saying things like, I thought it was my apartment, and she seems to be overly concerned about herself. None of that's relevant to whether or not a murder was committed or whether or not this is a mistake of fact. The only reason we're spending time on this from the prosecutorial standpoint is to somehow diminish the jury's image of this police officer, and somehow heighten the image of the deceased. And this is really a fight for who the jury is going to identify with. Botham Jean, or are they going to identify with the fear associated with Amber Guyger walking into that apartment?
Yeah, a lot was. I know Mike Motta very well, and obviously he could possibly be called as a witness. So anybody that's in that position is not going to speak or shouldn't. But a lot was talked about. Well, he asked that a recording device be turned off. He wanted to speak to Guyger in private. When I initially, having family in law enforcement, I thought, well, that's the same protocol. I mean, every police officer gets a delegate. That's the same protocol you have in a small town or a big city. Why did they make such a big deal of that?
What they want to do in this case, and I think I spent some time listening to the conversations that occurred outside the presence of the jury. And Judge Kemp, to her credit, disallowed that testimony. She found it not to be relevant. But what they want to try to show is that because this is a police officer, things were handled differently.
Special treatment,
she was given, right. She was given special treatment that most of us wouldn't get. Now, normally the prosecutors do something like that, but it is them propping up law enforcement. So it's really unusual to see a police officer on the other side and for them to be arguing how police officers get special treatment, and for some reason the jury should level the playing field.
Yeah, exactly. So from your vantage point, the jury understood today that no, turning off the recording device, stepping aside, so that they could have a private conversation. The jury understood that that's generally protocol in any police department and wasn't special treatment.
I don't know if the jury understood it because the defense objected to the testimony related to turning off the video in the back of the patrol car, and that's when Judge Kemp called a halt to the proceedings, and she took it under advisement, and she came back right after lunch, and she said, I will allow you to play the video, but I will not allow you to elicit testimony regarding the video being turned off or why that might have been done. So I think that was a net win. I was surprised that she did it. I thought that she would let the jury hear that. But what it really showed me about Judge Kemp is that she is dead set on having a really, to use a baseball analogy, having a really, really tight strike zone on this case. Right,
exactly. All right, sort of summing up yesterday, the first day, and today, what's ahead for us?
Well, I think that we're going to continue to see testimony regarding, what we saw today, the events in real time. We got to see video of the cops responding to the scene, of the first officers that went into the apartment where Amber Guyger was and where both of them, Jean was on the floor. We got to see her being taken into custody. We got to see him being taken out on a stretcher, and the video captured CPR. So the images were really profound today. I think that's good for the government to be able to see that. That's gonna pull at the heartstrings. And although bias and sympathy is not supposed to play a part, I just don't know how the jury keeps that out of their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to continue, I think, through this week to see the state continue to put on witnesses, and it's going to appear that the state's ahead in this deal, especially as we're able to see it live streaming. But what we got to remember is the defense always goes second. And a lot of these witnesses, they're not even questioning. They can recall these same witnesses that they don't question and use them to their advantage whenever it's the defense's turn and their case in chief.
All right. Chris Lewis, defense attorney with Crane, Lewis, and Brogdon. Now, if you have a question or a statement or something that you would like some direct input on, he has given me permission to give you his email. I don't think we want to give out phone numbers because your phone would be busy for the rest of the day. But that is Crane, Crain, Lewis, Brogdon.com, correct?
Yes, and my direct email is chris@cranelewis.com.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get an adjustment made to that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it and look forward to an update tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Pleasure talking with you all.
Thank you so much.